everybody. Welcome. I am Carrie Robb. I'm the author events coordinator for St. Louis County Library, and I'm thrilled to be hosting tonight's live virtual author event with bestselling Longmire author Craig Johnson, and as you can all see, some very special surprise guests. I feel like I can hear Longmire fans just squealing with joy across St. Louis right now. So I'd like to begin by thanking our wonderful partners at HEC Media who are helping us with all of our virtual author events, as well as our indie bookstore partner, Left Bank Books. Left Bank has exclusive signed copies of Craig's new book, Next to Last Stand, that you can order by following the link in the Facebook live stream or by visiting left-bank.com. They do have a limited number of those signed books, so if you want your signed copy of Next to Last Stand, please visit left-bank.com. And we so appreciate your supporting our author and our indie bookstore partner with your book purchase tonight. So tonight's event is live, and we hope you'll join in for the conversation. You can send in questions through the Facebook comments section. Our guests are going to talk for around 20 minutes, and then we'll start working your questions into the conversation. So feel free to start sending them now. So now to introduce all of our amazing guests. First up, the St. Louis County Library has had the honor of hosting Craig Johnson for pretty much every year for the past 10 years, 8 years. Craig, is that about right?
I think so.
And while I am so sorry we can't host him in person tonight, it's always such a great thrill to introduce one of my all-time favorite authors and guests. Craig, you know how much we love you in St. Louis.
Mutual.
As many fans know, Craig is the author of 22 mysteries starring Wyoming Sheriff Walt Longmire. The series is the basis for the hit Netflix TV series Longmire, and Craig's series is so popular that it's even celebrated in the annual Longmire Days Festival in Wyoming that attracts over 12,000 fans each year. And I feel like we have our own Longmire Fest here tonight, as we are so thrilled to also be joined by one of the stars of the TV show. Cassidy Freeman is with us, who starred as Walt's daughter, Katie. So Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us too.
I'm so happy to be here.
And then we have a special guest interview moderator tonight, crime fiction review editor.
Oh no! You said that they wouldn't be able to bomb the Zoom thing here.
Yeah. And then our other surprise guest, I'll come back to Scott. Our other surprise guest, Robert Taylor, who brought to life Walt Longmire on the screen, has now joined us too. So thank you, Robert. I'm glad you could join us. And then we have a special guest interview moderator tonight, crime fiction reviewer and author Scott Montgomery. Scott is the creator of the popular mystery blog, The Hard Word, and he also runs the Mystery People bookstore in Austin, Texas. And Scott also just told me right before we started that he was born and raised in St. Louis. So welcome home, Scott.
In fact, a Webster University graduate. So.
I'm in Webster, that's where I live.
Go Gorlock.
So we can get started. Everyone, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. On behalf of the library and APC, it's such a thrill to welcome you all. And I will now turn this over to Scott, who's going to start the interview portion of the event. So have fun, you all.
Thank you. In fact, I was very adamant that I wanted to talk to Craig about this book as much as possible. And we were talking about doing something with the St. Louis Library, me even going up there when you were there, because being from there and this story of Next to Last Stand has a St. Louis connection to it.
It does, a very strong St. Louis connection. It's one of those things where I don't know. I mean, whenever you're thinking about a book and you're thinking about an idea or something, there's always got to be an access point, and so the Little Bighorn's only like about maybe 90 miles up the road like that, but it never really figured into any of the the plot lines. Because you don't want to just, pick a book and just write about the Little Bighorn, because there have been a lot of books written about the Little Bighorn. Not all of them really good. Look at a lot of movies made about the Little Bighorn, and not all of them really good either. Like that, one of my favorites is the one that's mentioned in the book right off the bat. Whenever they're watching the Errol Flynn movie, They Died with Their Boots On, which my buddy Marcus Red Thunder calls They Died with Their Facts Wrong. But it's one of those things where you have to find an access point. And whenever I was looking at those essays, that were floating around, I thought, I think I'll do a little bit of research on that painting, Custer's Last Fight, and see what I can come up with like that. And the more research I did on the novel, the more research I did on the painting, the more interesting it became. And then I thought, maybe I can use that. Maybe that'll be something I can use to put this book together. And that's how it all kind of fell into place.
And I don't know how much history you can tell us about it, or do you want to have that revealed more in the book?
I can. Hi, Aish. How are you? I'm just glad that Robert finally picked you up. Because the last time we talked to you, he was out driving around in the wilderness, and and saying, "Hey, where are you?"
There were kangaroos everywhere. Can you see those kangaroos? See them?
Do you have a grill guard on the front of that car of yours, or what do you?
Did you see the kangaroos, dude?
We did. Oh yeah. And we heard about the poo a lot, is what we heard about.
A lot of kangaroo droppings, dude.
Scott, apologies. We just get so excited when we see each other. It's weird. And awesome.
Yeah. You're so tan.
I know. I got really tan this summer. I had time. Yeah.
Right. Not so sunny here.
No,
yeah, snowy.
Yeah, snow. Spring snow.
Oof. I forgot what the question was, Scott. You remember?
Actually, well, I'll go into a little bit, because one thing I put in the review I did of the book, and I think I even told you, and I waited a few days just to make sure there wasn't hyperbole with it. I said, I think you've actually given mystery fiction the best MacGuffin since the Maltese Falcon with this. Because
it's very kind of you to say. It's very kind of you to say whether it's true or not, like that. But yeah, the painting, like that. I mean, the painting was. Hardly anybody knows Cassidy Adams. Hardly anybody knows the artist, But I can just about guarantee you that everybody knows his work. Like it now, Cassidy has never been in a bar or saloon like that, so she probably doesn't recognize Custer's Last Fight like that. But Robert, on the other hand, pretty much lives, in kind of saloons and bars like that. So I know he's seen the artwork numerous times like that. But it was
never in focus, dude.
He did this painting. It was like a 16.5 foot by 9.5 foot painting. And they, at that point in time, this was about 10 years after the Little Bighorn, and they took the painting out on tour like that all over the world, from St. Louis, where Cassidy Adams was from like that. And they went around like that. They toured the painting like that, and then they brought it back, and they didn't have anything to do with it like that. And so there was the saloon that was near the train station there in St. Louis. And so what they did was the owner of the bar bought the painting, and they put it up on the wall. And it was, I guess, a big, it got a lot of response. A lot of people would come in just to see the painting. And this went on for like a number of decades like that. And then finally, at one point in time, what happened is what happens normally like with these type of businesses. It went out of business and went bankrupt. And one of the biggest people that they owed money to, one of its biggest creditors, was a small brewery in St. Louis at that time by the name of Anheuser-Busch. And Augie Busch, like that, never to miss an opportunity, walked into the bar and said, "Hey, what are you going to do? You owe me $30,000 for all the beer." And they said, "We're bankrupt. We don't have anything." And he goes, "I'll take the painting." Like it. And so they wheel the painting off the wall. Like that, they give it to him. He takes it back to the brewery. He folds it out on the front of his marketing guys and says, "We're going to start making posters of this painting. And we're going to send them out to every bar, every saloon, like at everybody that sells Budweiser beer. And by the time we're done with it, we're going to be a much bigger, brewer than we are now." Well, it worked. It worked with a vengeance. And they had it there like that. And they sent it at one point in time. They were shipping out, I think, close to 1 million posters and lithographs a year. And this went on like that all the way through up until the 1930s. And that when suddenly, like in a fit of philanthropic zeal, Augie Busch decided he was going to donate the painting, to the 7th Cavalry. At that point in time, they were based at Fort Bliss in Texas, like that, and he made that donation like that, and it was there until 1946, after World War II, when the commissary burned to the ground and the painting was destroyed, or was it? In the book, the idea is that the painting maybe survived. And actually, I've been working on this book for I guess I figured back, it was like about 8 years, because it was actually mentioned and was one of the plot points in one of the episodes of Longmire. I think it was in the first season, maybe the second or third episode like that. And I had told the producers about it like that, and they worked it in to the episode like that. And it's been funny because people have asked me, they said, well, did you get the idea from the episode of the television show? And I'm like, no, they got that one from me. Thank you very much. Like that. So, but yeah, it kind of gives you an indication of just how much, reading and research had to go into this book, which was quite a bit.
Well, and the way you use this too, it's you use the painting to really explore several different themes that come out in the book. And you do it with, I was thinking about this before, comparing it to Cold Dish, which, I think was a book that, came out of the gate that this was an author we needed to look at.
Oh, thank you.
But it is amazing to see I'm sorry, is this book 15? I'm losing count at this point. 16, sorry. That how a lighter and defter touch you've kind of developed over those books. And
thank you very much.
And it's something I kind of want to tie in with all three of you as you go in, but because one of my other fears about the book, and when it comes out, I think it's gotten great reviews, everybody's enjoyed it, but I think it is going to be kind of not crossed off, but just considered one of your funny books, and that's it. And when there's so much more going on, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. What do you think is that kind of developed that kind of lighter touch that you're able to do?
Oh, I'm a horror for a laugh. That's the biggest thing. I mean, for me, it's always like, every time I come up with a serious line like that, I float it like a balloon, and then I have about 5 smart aleck responses like that immediately come to mind like that. And, I think that if you're going to talk about, people that are in high pressure situations, a murder mystery like that, whether it's like law enforcement, medical, whatever, anything like that, a sense of humor is one of the things you pretty much have to be able to make it through. And, and I was extraordinarily fortunate, with the books, and with the television show, that we had some really extraordinarily talented people. And, the light touch that they used, for 6 years was pretty wonderful. I have to admit And, I also have to say, yeah, you can keep doing that. But I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. One of the first scenes that I actually got to see recorded, for Longmire were these two people, the two people that we're seeing here tonight. And, it was the porch scene, between Robert and Cassidy. And you don't ever know, what to expect. You write, these characters, for 8 or 9 years, and then all of a sudden there they are, on the screen like that. And watching the filming of that, it was literally kind of stopped me, in my tracks like that. And I had to literally walk out the back of the building like that because, the things that they were doing like it were so powerful like that and so honest that it was hard to watch. It was literally hard to watch. Okay, so I wanted to get that in. I think that was important. So I think Scott.
What people don't know is that on the car ride to the Valle Caldera, where we were going to shoot that on day 0, by the way, that wasn't even in the week that we were supposed to shoot the show. It was the first thing we shot. Yeah. I'm grilling Rob in the car because I've met him 2 days earlier, and I'm like, "What's your favorite color? What do you love about your parents? What did you do when you were 18 that you regret? What?" And he's probably like, "Who is this crazy person?" And I'm sitting here I just want to know things about you because I'm supposed to be my dad, and I want to connect with you. Yeah, I was a weirdo. You were like,
well, you're right. It wasn't even day 1. It was they're going to do a location scout or something. Do you guys mind shooting the scene while we're there? We're like, sure.
Yeah, it was day 0.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because there was no other scene to take place in the Caldera. No, everything else was in Madrid and town.
Yeah,
yikes! I had no idea. It was impromptu. For goodness.
And that being my only scene in the pilot meant that they flew me home the next day.
Is that your only scene?
They were like, "Welcome to Santa Fe. Here's your new family, baby."
Those guys were partying on the pilot, dude. I was in everything.
See you later.
And
I know.
The bus pulling away with there's Lou and Adam, and they're partying on, and I'm studying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Where's this guy Rob that's playing my dad?" And they're like, "He's in the gym." And I was like, "He's in the gym?" It's like 8 in the morning. I'm sitting in the gym.
I had to, yeah.
Yeah.
Stay sick when you're working.
Yeah.
That's right. Thanks, Craig. It was a special day that day.
Well, it was spectacular. It was really, really wonderful, and everybody felt the same way. Like that. I mean, I remember, everybody kind of like stepped back and went, "Wow, this is going to be something, isn't it?" Like that, and it turned out it was.
I remember talking to you, Craig, in the back of that room somewhere in the kitchen, saying, "Well, Walt's this, and this is going on, and this is it, and this and that." After 2 or 3 minutes, I looked at him and I said, "Oh, sorry, dude." And he's looking at me, nodding his head. I'm like, yeah. Sorry, man.
Hey, that was important.
You probably know that.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it's a part of the interpretation there. Like, it was very interesting for me to hear it like this.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sorry.
Craig's like, I've spent a little bit of time with the guy. Just a little bit.
I know him a little, somewhat. Welcome back, Scott. You're back among us.
Yeah, this is the problem when you have like a 15-year-old computer, so that you're working off of.
Scott, it's not a problem because you have 3 people that don't mind talking forever.
Yeah, that's fine. Other than Craig, you just have to tell me what the story was about when
the first scene, the first scene that we actually saw, filmed. Which was these 2 individuals right here. Boy, they set the bar was set pretty high, right there from the very first scene. I got to tell you, it was truly wonderful. It really, really was. And a lot of authors have differing experiences with Hollywood like that, but we had just a remarkable cast, just an extraordinary group of people, just great folks to work with and. My gosh, it's still going on in many ways I mean, when they all come down to Longmire days, and thousands of people show up, and I mean, I think we're still one of the top 20 shows on, Netflix, even now, and so it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice, when that all kind of falls into place.
Well, I think it's also amazing too, just I think how everybody went on to other work and after that. I mean, everybody, but something I remember you talking about, and I kind of will lead into Robert after I talk about this moment, is that I forgot who you were talking to. I think it was the showrunner, and he had asked you, "Well, do you think Walt is a really verbose character?" And you said, "Yeah," and because you're writing him in first person. And then I think they either asked you or you kind of went over one of the books and realized there's very little dialogue with Walt.
Yeah, that was Greer. One of the first meetings that I had with her. She was like, "Do you think of Walt as being a very, a particularly verbose, kind of character?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, my gosh, the books are first person, and Walt's, he's the voice of the books all the way through." And she's like, I'm not talking about what he thinks. I'm talking about what he actually says, Craig. And so I had to go back and kind of thumb my way through. And sure enough, it turns out he doesn't say anything for 3 or 4 pages, and then he'll say one sentence, But that was one of the things I think that Robert did a wonderful job embodying, of allowing. One of my favorites also is that I remember there was a scene where Walt, was there in the office, and Robert's doing an interrogation of this individual, and it was always fun, to watch, the guest stars come in and play supporting roles like that, and they were taking advantage of every opportunity they had, and so there was a young man who was he was moving a lot, he was moving around a lot and gesturing a lot and doing a lot of gesticulation, and I noticed Robert was like a cop. He just asked the question and just sat there and looked at this guy as he, gesticulated, for a good 2 or 3 minutes or so. And afterwards, went over to Robert and I was like, I thought it was very curious, that, you asked your question and then you didn't move. You didn't say anything like that. And Robert just looks up at me and goes, Walt's a hunter and you don't catch things by making a lot of noise or moving around a whole lot. And I was like, okay, we're in good shape. We don't have to worry now.
No, I was just hungover, dude.
No, well, I remember one of the Longmire days.
Rob, we'd rather look at you than hear you. Okay, so just
there's nobody watching this, right? It's just the four of us.
no, we're not live, as it says in the corner.
Are we going to go live?
We're going to edit.
We're gonna edit this in post. They'll fix this in post.
Yeah.
Well, I do remember, Mr. Taylor, somebody asking you at Longmire days.
What am I?
I'm sorry, somebody I don't know. It's just the way I am. Robert, thank you. That somebody had asked you at Longmire days, an actor who inspired you or influenced you, and you'd mentioned Peter Finch, who I think most of us here, most American audiences know, oddly enough, from Network, is kind of a boisterous character. But after that, I kind of went and looked at some of his other work, and he's very I'm watching a movie right now called Operation Amsterdam from 1959, and he's with two other actors. And even when he's in the background, hardly doing anything, you can't help but look at him.
Phenomenal actor. He doesn't do a thing, and there's so much going on. He's just in the moment. He's confident enough to do that, and he's an Aussie, mate.
Right? Listen, you guys are so much better at acting than we are.
Oh, here we go. Cassie's going to do an Aussie accent.
Yeah, right? I just go into auditions with this accent,
Come on.
and they're like, you have the part. You're obviously Australian.
You got the part, mate. Australians speak through their nose, mate. It's all like
Yeah, right.
Speak straight through the nose, mate. Yeah, Peter Finch, dude. What a guy. What an actor. And my best friend for, started off that. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he ended up living in Peter Finch's flat apartment in King's Cross in Sydney. So Jerome and I kept a tradition going in that place, I can tell you, because Finchy was pretty wild.
Now,
it's great. Go ahead.
When you're playing a character like that with Walt, that's like that laconic, do you kind of have to depend more on the crew and your co-stars like Cassidy to kind of, how should I say, bring out what you're going through or what the character is going through, I should say, or the story?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer in just being in the scene with somebody and kind of seeing what happens. And if you kind of live the scene, I shouldn't wave my hand like that, should I? It's like,
so in real life, he gesticulates all the time.
Totally. Yeah, of course. I mean, I rely on the crew to be quiet because, they're all my buddies. And they're always pulling faces at me and trying to distract me, put me off my game. But of course, you work with good actors like Cassidy, amazing actors, and they're just in the scene. You just do the scene. It took me a lifetime to figure out that it's, that I think the hardest thing with acting is to not act, is to just be in the moment. And each take may be a little different, and we all used to be caught up in continuity and matching everything. And, Chris Chulak, the great director, these days they shoot the master last because different stuff happens in every take. You don't want to be wedded the old English system. Everything's got to be done perfectly. And it's just, to me, it's sterile. You need to put some life in. You need to just live it and feel it. And yeah, it's the other actors are the most important thing to your performance, I think.
Now, I have to ask, how is Robert to play off of, Cassidy?
He's great. He's actually great because you can tell when hide. What you can tell is I'm just kidding.
When he gets that out of it.
Look, when you work in TV a lot or movies a lot, you're going to work with a wide, if you're in a theater company, you're pretty sure who you're working with, right? These are people that you rehearse with week after week and, but when you do television and film, it's a faster process and one that it took me a while to get used to when I was in my 20s because you meet people and you're like Rob and I in that first scene, you're supposed to know each other, right? You're supposed to have a shared history. And a lot of people also in film and television seem to be very worried about what they look like or a lot of stuff that doesn't really matter in terms of their acting or the honest moment that they're trying to create, you know, the reality that they're trying to live under imaginary circumstances. And so something that Robert does really well that I was so grateful for from the beginning is that stillness. And it's not just stillness, it's actually attention. And the best actor is the greatest listener. And so when you find each other in moments of stillness or even quiet, where you're looking at each other and you're there, and no one feels a need to fill a moment until that next line, which if you've done your homework, you know, but it just gets like pinched out of you because it's in the timing that it needs to be. And I think of that scene at the end of the first season when he comes up to my house and I learn that my mom was murdered and we confront one another. And I remember doing that scene and thinking like, oh, my emotion's like gigantic. And what's Robert going to do? He's probably going to try and match it, right? And we're going to get in this fight. And Robert did this incredible thing and he found the stillness in it. And it was what was so real for the moment. And I think it was such a beautiful scene in the whole series. Your reaction to it, you know, it's easy to be like, oh, the chick that's crying is doing a great job. But Rob playing against that is like, that's powerful. So it was okay, whatever.
Actually, I have a question from Gail. Forgive me if I mangle her name. Gendler, who's kind of a follow-up to this, is how quickly did the two of you build your close communication and relationship?
Oh, this is from Gail Gendler. Hey, Gail. Gail's
a friend of yours?
No, well, she is. Yeah, she comes to the long.
Yeah.
Oh, Gail, right? Don't you, Craig? You know Gail.
Robert knows everybody that comes to.
Way to put him on the spot, Dad.
She's. What's the question? Oh, I'm pretty likely I would have thought.
It's written.
Hang on. How quickly did? No, I mean it was pretty quick, Cassidy, right? I mean,
yeah.
You know, even if I don't know you, I just know you. I know you. You know, it's just. Mm-hmm. I just decided I knew you, so I knew you. I don't know. It seemed very easy to me. I don't.
Ditto.
I can't remember it forensically, so that's a good sign. It just seemed.
It was a while ago.
It was a couple of years.
Got a question from J.W. Stroheckler. And I think basically it's a long question with two questions, but I think it's what it basically is about is you seeing the tape of Robert and how it basically the thing with the hat. And that's kind of what clinched it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've told that story before. But I was fortunate enough that the producers actually sent me auditions. They sent me the audition DVDs, for the actors that they were considering, and the one that really kind of, there were a lot of really good ones, a lot of them like that, but the one that really kind of blew me away was Robert's, because it was a scene where he's doing a notification of death, and it's like the worst job in law enforcement that you can have. Basically, what you're doing is going to a stranger's home and telling them that they're never going to get to see their loved one again, and the great thing about it was, Robert, the way he portrayed it was, Walt's he doesn't know this woman. He's never been in her home before. And Robert was the only one that took off his hat. He was the only one that, looked like he was trying to be solicitous to this person in what's going to be probably the most horrifying moment in their entire lives. I think what my remark to the producers was, well, this is our guy because his mom brought him up right, so we don't have to, teach him basic decency like that. And so then I met Robert's mom, and boy, she'd scare the crap out of anybody. I understand why, he turned out the way he did. So yeah.
I'm on if you're watching.
Well, I have to add, as somebody who's known you, Craig, for a long time, and had been following the book since the first one. It was you. There was a bunch of us that had kind of known you since the first book, and I forgot where we were at. It was somewhere in Houston, and you said, "Oh, I've got the audition tape of the guy who got it," and all of us, diehard Longmire fans, looked at it and said, that's the guy. Like there was no hesitation. Like all of us thought like that was the perfect Walt, that you couldn't create. So, you couldn't build somebody to be a better Walt than
no. The way the producers described it was, they said that Robert had the DNA. That was it. Look at, he had the DNA of the character. Look at, it was as simple as that. Look at, and I have to agree. I don't. The casting for this show was, I can't speak highly enough about the casting of the show. It was just astronomical. I mean, they could have gone with very predictable castings. And I mean, the thing I'm always using Walt as the example there. Like that. I mean, the problem is there's about 6 guys that play every role that has one of these hats. And they weren't going to do that. They were really trying to search and find the souls of each one of these characters, and they just did such an astounding job. It was just amazing. And then, after the auditions, to see everybody working together, because that's where the real, that's where the real deal comes through, because it's just like what Cassidy was saying, what Robert was saying. I mean, it's the interaction. It's the listening process, it's the give and take, that really makes for incredible performance, and boy, no complaints.
And the drinking games after work and the fun, jocularity. I thought the casting was perfect. I mean, except maybe for Adam. I mean, but
how dare you? How dare you?
He says that about you, though.
For an hour and a half, he was driving to Bakersfield, and we had a good talk about everything. He's my dear friend. We're super close. I mean, it's a lifelong connection. It just it's just always going to be there. We'll get together and have some margaritas, right, Punk?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. We can't all be in the same city without a full-on group text being like, where are we meeting? What are we doing? Where are we going?
Yeah, but don't tell Adam.
Yeah, guys, let's hang out, but don't tell Adam. Except we'll be going to his house.
Sheldon Wood has a question for you, Cassidy.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to know how you became a part of the show. I guess how you heard about it and what the audition was, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I'd like to tell you, Sheldon, that I get offers left and right, but I don't. I audition like everybody else. And it was actually my first ever real pilot season. That doesn't really exist anymore, but it's when shows used to, it really doesn't, does it? It was pretty much late January to late April. And it's when all the shows would cast their shows. And the traffic in LA got actually even worse because people would just come in from different parts of the country or different countries. Thanks for
Australia.
And from Australia, all these hot Australians would come to Los Angeles and try and get a job. And I was working on a show in Vancouver, British Columbia, that I'd been working on for 3 years. And I had gotten some other test offers for that season, for that year, and I had turned them down because they were things that didn't interest me. And then Longmire came across, and I said, "Ooh, this is interesting." They said, "Well, they'd like to test you, but the test is on this particular day," and I had to work the night before until about 1 a.m. So I shot until 1 a.m, and then I got on a 6 a.m. flight. And then I flew to Los Angeles. My brother picked me up from the airport, drove me straight to the test. I'm doing makeup in the car. I'm so not in my right mind. And I auditioned for the part, and every part of it felt really, really right. And I was really grateful that I got cast. But it's a weird process getting involved in these things, unless you are someone that they already know that they want. But you audition, you test, you go through levels of feeling like you're not enough and hoping that you are, and then they call you and tell you have it, and then your life changes, which is pretty cool.
Kathy Ray asks both of you folks, what's the most difficult scene you guys had to do in the show?
That's easy for me.
Is it?
Yeah. It wasn't about the scene. Well, do you want to go first?
No, I want you to go
Want
first.
some thinking music?
Yes.
Remember? What was it? What was
What
for me,
was?
what was the hardest? It was because it was the last scene with Adam Bartley, and and most of the scene was cut. I think it was cut where he walks up the stairs, and I'm replacing Branch's name. There was a gap for the 3 years after Bailey was off the show, and we used to joke about moving Adam's name up, and or the Ferg's name up, and I guess I was doing it, and he came up to me and he told me this bit that didn't make it was he was quitting, and I just had to walk away. I couldn't keep it together. You may have been there, Cassidy. I don't know. I think we were all kind of, because it was the last thing we shot. But I couldn't. I had to walk away and compose myself for 5 minutes, which was unusual for me. And everybody just waited, and I came back and we did the scene. But it was so hard, and so the scene was amazing. But it made sense to cut it. But one day they're going to put all those scenes together, Cassidy, and there's like 4 or 5 episodes. And all the funny stuff. Remember all the funny stuff? I mean,
Yeah.
why weren't people dumping that somewhere? That exists somewhere. I mean, it was like we just swap characters or change accents or change other things that were personal about ourselves. And
Oh yeah, or just say something really offensive, and then
No,
everyone
that's
would
it.
crack up and walk
I know.
away.
It was, I mean, that stuff. But that was the hardest scene for me by far, because it was the last scene. The show was finishing with these people, and people. It's funny, Adam. I'm talking about Adam a lot. Younger actor and actually older than you, Cassidy, but a young guy.
No, but he's the heart. If we're honest, he's the heart of that show.
Oh yeah, but he. I used to always say to him, dude, you just got to soak this up. You've just got to enjoy this, especially that last season. I said, it's like I said, it's like you're a kid and you're playing the World Series when you're 19 or 20 and you just lose. You think, I'll be back next year.
You never know.
You never know.
I knew that scene when he tries to give you his badge in the beginning. I was like, Adam's actually the heart of the show.
Yeah.
Like in a really, really weird,
Totally, absolutely.
Murder me.
No question.
Yeah.
I had a long talk to him yesterday. He's good. He's very happy.
Yeah, we FaceTime a lot. I FaceTime until he answers. I'm that annoying friend.
Yeah.
Difficult is a really interesting word, because one would say like, the most difficult scene that I filmed was when it was 3 a.m. and we were outside, and people think that Santa Fe, New Mexico is always warm. It's not. It fully snows here and has crazy wind. And in the middle of a scene, it might start dumping snow. And then Katie Sackhoff's like, I think let's just add a line that's like, this Wyoming weather, which actually happened in a scene with her and Branch. It just started dumping snow. And they were like, we've already shot one whole side of the scene, so we're just going to shoot the other side.
At least it wasn't Peter Weller. He used to steal my lines, Robert. I think I'm going to say
right.
I'm going to take
right.
that line. Okay, man.
But it's an interesting question. What's the most difficult scene to shoot? Because I agree with you, Robert. Those scenes that's 3 a.m. and you're tired and you're like pissed and you're like, I want to be home with my dog or whatever.
Yeah.
They go away. They pale in comparison to the experiences that you have that are difficult, or maybe a better word is more meaningful. So I don't mean to change your question at all, but yeah, it's okay. Rob really laid it on me on the last scene that we had together in the finale of the show.
Yeah,
and
that was a good scene, right? That was in your cabin, and I went, yeah.
That was in my office when you told me that you were gonna like go look for the treasure, and you told me to be sheriff.
Yeah.
And then we did it once as written, and then you were like, I'm going to add something. Are you cool with that? And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, add whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then what did you, at the end of the thing, you stood up and you did your whole Walt, I'm going to shuffle and touch my hat thing. And then you were all, And then you're all, your mom's really proud of you, and I am too.
We're supposed to wrap it up, but I can't resist asking this question because Craig will love it, even though it's for Cassidy. As somebody with a ranch background, do you ever go to Craig's place in Ucross and help him with the chores?
Craig has never asked me to come and help with chores, but I would if he needed me. I grew up branding cows
all day.
Don't you kind of hold the record for like for people who've been on the cover of Cowgirl magazine? Don't you kind of hold the record for that?
Twice.
Yeah. See, I can't intrude on that. I can't offer anything that's going to compare. With.
Well, it'd be weird if you were on the cover of Cowgirl, Greg.
What's that supposed?
It's a little weird.
What's that supposed to mean, anyway?
Craig, if you need me, I'm there.
Okay.
Well, I have to say, as somebody, like the first time I went up there, because he said, "Oh, come up." I said, "I always kind of go by your place after Cheyenne Frontier Days." And he goes, "Well, why don't you and your friends stop at my place and spend a couple of days?" And we did. And somehow, out of that, he said, "I've got a bunch of firewood that needs to." It's kind of like the bit in Run from Dove. You wouldn't mind doing some well digging for your breakfast. That's kind of another question that did come up. And I should say, but Cassidy is going to do some work for us. She did a reading from Next to Last Stand that we're going to cut to. But one of the questions that got asked early on that I just thought I'd say for last and for you guys to talk a little bit about. What's the story, or what can you tell us, if there is anything, about an upcoming TV movie or doing some stuff about the shows? That's always been in the rumors, I guess, for the last few years.
Yeah. Well.
And Cassidy might be the sheriff now, so I'm kind of...
Might be. What kind of faith is that, Scott? Come on. You don't think I'm sheriff material?
Yeah.
Wow. There is a new sheriff in town. Yeah. I don't know, buddy.
Well, I would have worn my hat if you guys had told me to.
Yeah.
Cassidy, I do. I'm gonna plug a mutual friend's book of Craig and ours. Have you read Sawdust and Sunset by Joe R. Lansdale?
Mm-mm.
You need to read it because it's basically about a smart, beautiful redhead who ends up becoming the constable in this Depression-era oil town.
Interesting. I'll give it to my manager. I'm just kidding. But no, that sounds cool. I'll read it.
Well, I could do this at least as long as my computer kind of hangs out. But we do have to kind of Cassidy. I didn't give a lot of questions. There were a lot of questions for Craig. One reason I didn't do that is we had a limited amount of time, and you can get in touch with Craig on his website, which is, you want to give the address for that if you haven't?
Sure. It's just CraigAllenJohnson.com, and you can hit the contact button. And I'm proud of the fact that I'm one of those few authors like that actually has an email contact, and you hit that contact button and you're talking to me. You're not talking to a manager. You're not talking to somebody who takes care of my website or anything like that. You're talking to me. Like right here in Ucross, Wyoming, population 25.
Well, personally, I want to thank my city where I grew up, St. Louis, and their library for asking me to do this. Craig for pulling me in. It's always good to see him. Good to meet both of you again. I've met Rob recently, or a long time ago. In fact, my dad did a carving of Walt for him that he was very kind enough to.
I've got that. Was that your dad?
Yeah, that's my dad.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
I got that in my workshop.
Yes, and you were kind enough to give him a really nice thank you letter, and he really treasures that. Yeah, that's my dad.
Dad, you wrote a thank you letter?
Yeah.
That's so sweet. I'm proud of you.
I could have at least called him.
I can give you the number if you need it.
Give me the number off. Give it to Craig Johnson. You can do that. Give it to Craig. I'll definitely call him. I'd love to call him.
Okay, no, I definitely will.
I got that thing. It's awesome. I love it.
So anyway, I want to thank everybody for showing up, everybody for asking questions, coming in. And usually when I do these things live or when we're doing them at this store or whenever at a book festival, I end it with a quote, which I think is even more palatable these days, from one of my favorite authors, Larry Brown, who said, "As long as we teach our kids to read, everything else will work out." So thank you, and we're about to hear Cassidy's reading, I believe.
Jaya Long stood in the other court with the ball tucked under one elbow as she watched the Crow players congratulate one another. Something I hadn't seen the Cheyenne women do after they had beaten the strong Hardin team earlier. They had simply walked off the court and stood together, but not looking at one another. Instead, watching the other teams the way red-tailed hawks sit on fence posts and watch field mice. Predatory. I followed the bear, and we squeezed out of the aisle, clanged down the aluminum steps, and moved through the crowd to stand at the curb. A breathtaking, tall woman with an interesting scythe-like scar saw us and approached, swinging her dark hair back. "Coaches and contestants only beyond this point." Henry smiled. "How do you know I am not a coach?" Chief Long didn't smile. "Because no one in their right mind would let you be responsible for youth." She's got a point. Long stopped, and I found it amusing that she and her niece stood in exactly the same posture. "Hi, Walt." "Hi, Lolo." "Nice scar." I gestured toward the young woman now shooting foul shots with the assistance of one of her teammates. "Another athlete in the family?" "Extended family. She was having trouble at home, so I allowed her to stay in my basement, but only if she lived by the rules." "How's she doing?" She turned to look at the young player. "Pretty well. She's got her senior year to go, but there's already interest from the Yukon, Duke, Stanford." "So she's smart, too." The Northern Cheyenne Tribal Police Chief growled, "Too smart for her own good." I glanced at Henry, and then back to the chief. "So there's a problem?" "She's a teenager, so there are nothing but problems. You had one of those, didn't you?" I thought of my daughter and granddaughter down in Cheyenne. "I did, and another one to go someday." "There's the stuff you normally have to contend with, but this is a little different," she sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Threats." "What kind of threats?" "Life-threatening threats." Henry inclined his head and lip pointed. "Show him the note, Lolo." She reached into a pocket inside her jacket and produced a copy of a note that had been on the kind of paper you'd find in a school binder. She handed it to me and folded her arms. I studied the typewritten words, which were pretty horrific, describing actions and making threats on par with the worst I'd ever seen. Where was this given to her? Here, in Billings. At an event or game? No. When she and some friends came up to see a movie, it was left under the windshield wiper of her car. I flipped it over, looking for something that might resemble a clue. Another student? I mean, it is notepaper from something like a binder. Long shook her head. I don't think that's the language or idiom of a high school student. Do you? Not really, but I'm assuming you talked to her friends. I have. And? Nothing. She took the paper back. You don't think this note has a racist slant? You contacted the local authorities? She cocked her head. the dark hair covering one eye. I am the local authorities. Sounds like you need a bodyguard for her. She glanced over her shoulder at insouciance personified with a basketball, still shooting foul shots, among other things. I gestured toward the bear. Well, you've got the best in the world right here. She studied me. I need an investigator. You are an investigator. I need a white investigator. Nobody is taking this seriously, but if I get you on board, then people might start paying attention. Besides, as much as I hate admitting it, you're the best. Well, as much as I'd like to help, I don't see... She's like a daughter to me, Walt. I don't think I could stand it if something happened to her. It's not even my state. Things wouldn't heat up until late fall, early winter, months away. I don't know. Just meet her. She turned and yelled, Jaya! The young woman didn't respond and kept shooting, even though it was pretty obvious that she'd heard her aunt. Jaya Long! I watched as she finally turned, at the stiffness in her neck and the pride of her strut as she approached. And all I could think of was a kid I'd known years ago. A kid with too much muscle and not enough brains, headed off to play offensive line for the University of Southern California. A crew-cut kid in a hand-me-down pickup truck who had never seen the ocean. A kid who thought he had the world by the tail and would soon come to figure out that the world's tail was something you'd do well to never, ever grab. Jaya got close and I could see that she was about 6 feet tall, a smidge taller than her aunt, and that she made sure the older woman knew it. Yeah? Giving her a good helping of silence, Lolo gestured towards us. This is Henry Standing Bear and Sheriff Longmire. There was a flicker of recognition as she glanced at the bear, who had played in a Montana high school state championship himself back in the day, and was a legend across the High Plains courts. Then she looked my way and immediately flicked me into the aged dustbin, the way only a young woman's eyes can. I extended a hand. Walt Longmire, nice to meet you. She ignored the hand and didn't make eye contact. Sheriff, huh? Yep. Lolo crowded in, her face inches from her niece's. You greet this man properly with the respect he deserves. He is meeting you as an act of consideration, and you do not ignore another person's consideration. The teen backed away a half step, gesturing toward the court. I've got a game. If you don't behave properly, this game and any others will be put on ice until you can learn to control yourself. She dropped her head with an exasperated sigh. And when her face came up with a dazzling grin, the transformation was pretty impressive. She extended her hand. Jaya Long, so pleased to meet you. I shook the hand. Nice to meet you, too. The smile slammed shut like a door as she turned to her aunt. Can I go now? Lolo stared at her for a moment and then gave a curt nod, and we watched as Jaya loped off to join her teammates. I glanced at Lolo and leaned over to her ear. Are you sure you're not the one who wrote those notes?